Krishna says there is purity, passion, and inertia. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. These are three qualities, also called Prakriti, which is nature. And it is this gunas that act, not you. So that's, we'll see that later, but that's an important thing. He says there is only two things, there's Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is that indestructible Brahman, and Prakriti is nature. Now, why did Prakriti come into being? We don't know. As we know that, as we saw last time, ignorance is as ancient as knowledge. So you are not, it's not that you were the self once, then you got ignorant of yourself, now you have to go back to the self. That is how we explain it to kids. But the truth is, ignorance is as immortal as the truth. Because as we saw in a magic show, you are ignorant as long as you don't know the, you don't have knowledge. So you it's not like you had knowledge and then you became ignorant, you got lost in the magic show, and then you you learned that it was a trick. No, as long as you don't know what the trick is, you are in ignorance. So, but even in your passage of ignorance, the truth did not change. It's not that just because you were ignorant of the truth, it became a real magic show. No, it was never a real magic show. The magician always knew that it was a trick. The experienced watchers of the show in the audience also knew it was a trick. You didn't know it was a trick, but that doesn't mean that once knew you it was a trick. No, you were born into ignorance. Now the action is trying to get knowledge to dispel ignorance. So similarly, Prakriti, Gunas, you were born into your gunas, isn't it? And now you are limited by your mind. So you can ask yourself, what is Prakriti? Why did it happen? Why did the first original sin, where Maya, how did Maya come in? We don't know. We don't have the equipment to answer that question. Just like the dreamer in the dream does not have the equipment to conjure up the fact that there is a waker sleeping in his or her bed in India or in the UK or in the US, in whose mind this entire world is there. The waker cannot ask that question, isn't it? Sorry, the dreamer cannot ask that question, because the dreamer's equipment of body, mind, intellect within the dream is limited. And with a limited equipment, we cannot ask unlimited questions. With a screwdriver, you cannot build a bridge. You can only, drive screws. With a hammer, you cannot solve a computer problem. Hammer, you can only punch nails. So similarly, with our body, mind, intellect, we cannot transcend these limitations to ask questions. However, what we know is that it is the gunas that act, not us. So in a simple way, it is, if you look at uh, personality types, psychometric tests, if you've taken MBTI or whatever it is, any psychometric test. In my profession, we do a lot of psychometric tests on senior executives. Or even if you believe in zodiac signs, whatever you believe in, you the oldest way of categorizing people is through archetypes, isn't it? So Aquarians are more susceptible. Today is my birthday, so Aquarians are more susceptible to that. Pisceans are more susceptible to that. Sagittarians are more susceptible to that. So what do we say? So if I am naturally susceptible, let's take zodiac signs for example. If I'm naturally susceptible to the good qualities of being an Aquarian and bad qualities of being an Aquarian, how can you blame Aditya, sir? I was born into this, no? I was born to be a natural, say, thinker, creative person, but I'm also a kind of a out of sight, out of mind person as an Aquarian. I cannot take refuge in that. I'm not saying that's an excuse you should take. I'm saying if you believe in that, forget astrology if you don't. If you believe in psychometric tests, say traits and type indicators, MBTI, which says you're an extrovert or an introvert, are you a thinker or are you a feeler? Say an MBTI test which is validated by science to an extent, with a norm group of like millions of data points. So you're normed against people. So it kind of takes away superstitions, anomalies. So the exercise throws that you are a. Are you able to hear me? I got a message saying somebody's not able to hear me.
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you, Aditya.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So suppose your psychometric throws you as an extrovert and a feeler, or an introvert and a thinker, whatever it is. Now these are nature. Now can now, as a wise person, if I'm dealing with, say, Kriti, I'm dealing with you, I should understand that it's your psychometric types that's making you behave a certain way. I can't blame you, meaning you are the one that's behaving, but it's not your fault. At the end of the day, it's you're bound to your psychology, you're bound to your nature, you're bound to your motives, you're bound to your drivers, you're bound to your traits, you're bound to your whatever zodiac sign, whatever you believe in. But the truth is, you are bound. What Vedanta says is, cut all that crap. The original bondage is the mind that you leave is the mind that you get, and the mind that you leave in the previous night, last night, February 13th, is the mind that you wake up to. You cannot wake up to Adi Shankara's mind. If you punched some buttons last night, you will wake up with that same buttons today, or same reality today. So you're able to see that it is the gunas that act, not you. Who is that you? You are that person who's trapped in that gunas. Gunas are not trapped in you. You are trapped in that gunas because that's what you have indiscriminately reinforced, which has now become personality. Now, when it becomes personality, you can only live through that lens of your personality. If you're an extrovert and feeler, you can't tomorrow suddenly become an introvert and thinker. It will be excruciatingly difficult for you. If you're an introvert and thinker, you cannot become an extrovert and feeler. It will be excruciatingly difficult for you. So when I look at you, I can only see that it's the gunas playing out. What can you do? That's empathy, direct empathy. So one of the realizations of a person who has transcended the gunas, we'll see later, is that it is the gunas that are helplessly playing out. So every suffering I have, it's the gunas that are playing out. As Jay asked, why jealousy? I'm a very jealous person. It's my gunas that are playing out. What can I do? So just understanding that you are different from your gunas is a matter of great ecstasy and joy. So what he's saying is these gunas are born out of Prakriti, but it needs that Purusha to enlive in it. That self in you is seems trapped by the gunas. It has a limited identity created by your own personality types, and therefore you're seeing it through a rose tinted mirror. So you're not able to see it for what it is. You're able to see it only through the faculty of your gunas. You can't see it bigger because your faculty is limited. It's like if you take a cup to an ocean, you can only come back with a cup full of water. The ocean was always the ocean, but your equipment, your vessel was limited. Your vessel is limited to a cup, means you can only come back with a cup full of water. So when you take back a cup full of water and you open your iPhone, and then you realize, oh, the ocean is only a cup full of water. No, the ocean is limitless. Similarly, we identify ourselves only with gunas because the gunas is the vessel inside which we function. Transcending the guna means you realize this was but a iota of what life is. The truth is that I am the universe, trapped inside my own gunas because of reinforcement. So then Krishna goes on to explain, saying, of which of these three gunas, sattva, you can see the simplicity of chapter 14 here. Look at this is how you arrange a PPT presentation. One point for one crystallized point instead of jumbling. Probably somebody else, probably Krishna was in a different mood for this chapter. Of these, Arjuna, sattva, which because of its stainlessness is luminous and healthy, it binds people to happiness and attachment to knowledge. So sattva guna also binds people, but it binds people to a higher quality of life. It binds you to unselfishness. It binds you to seeing others happy. It binds you to putting yourself. It binds you to service centeredness. It binds you to kindness, binds you to love, binds you to knowledge. You seek knowledge, you're bound to that. Rajas is the nature of passion and is a source of thirst and attachment. It also binds you. It binds you to action, donkey life. It binds you to constant action, and we all can relate to that. Day after day after day. How many of you count Monday after Monday after Monday? Binds you to that, isn't it? You can't get out of it, you can't get into it. You want to do other things, but you can't. You have EMIs to pay, you have family to answer to. You've set your benchmark as 3 vacations a year. Suddenly everybody in this era is saying traveling is the new big thing, so you have to also, go with the era. You never had desire, as much desire to travel, but everywhere in Facebook people are going to exotic locations. You also have the money, so suddenly a desire that never existed has propped up. Now you can't live without traveling. 3 years ago you never bothered about traveling. 2 years ago you got attached to traveling. Now because of coronavirus you're crying because you're not able to travel. That is the attachment to action. You get yourself into samsara, and then get screwed by that same samsara. That is so Gopal asks, are sattva gunas lead us closer to someone who loves God, who God loves? Yes, yes, we'll see that in the last section. And tamas is born out of ignorance, deluding all embodied bodies. It binds people to indolence, sleep. You know not that you know not. Imagine a person sitting in a magic show, happily being fooled by the magic. So, tamas can, from the outside, seem like a very joyous state to be in. Total indolence, sleep, ignorance. Sometimes you find, isn't it, Rajasic people are doing so much more to the world. They're solving real problems, but they're they're constantly unhappy. A tamasic person does nothing, but they seem to be happier. But that's not real happiness. As you can see, it's born out of ignorance. There is a lot of if tamasic people are shaken up, they become a monster at times. They're happy when they are in tamas, that's all. So that doesn't mean they're outgrown the desires. So going forward, sattva attaches to happiness, rajas attaches to action, and tamas, shrouding knowledge, negating knowledge, attaches to heedlessness. Now, so beautiful when sattva rises in you, when you've overpowered rajas and tamas, the force of rajas and tamas. Rajas becomes dominant when that overpowers sattva and tamas, and tamas becomes dominant if that has overpowered sattva and rajas. So as per your dominant guna, your experience of life changes. But as we saw, it's not just three distinct buckets. Are you sattva, rajas, tamas? No, it's a gradation. You can be sattva, you can be rajas followed by sattva. Then your passion is channeled to higher causes, noble aims of this world. We're trying to solve a community issue, not just me or family. Rajas can be followed by tamas. Then what? Everything you're doing is just for your own pleasure and tamas. So you're passionate about life for what? Sit back, relax, and enjoy, right? So the rajas can also manifest itself in a gradation. When through every gate in this body, in the light of intelligence, the light of intelligence shines, then it may be known as sattva is predominant. So in every activity, if the intellect backs the mind, then sattva is automatically predominant. What did we say as intellect? Intellect is where you call the bluff of your mind and you're being objective in that activity. So if you're an intelligent citizen, you use intellect when you're voting. You don't use your mind when you're voting. If you want to use your intellect when you're voting, you're asking yourself, what's going to help my constituency? Where's India at the moment? Who's the most educated person? What is their track record? What was their past qualifications? How much pressure will they be getting from the party that they represent? What is the future of India economically? Where is India at the moment? So you're going to vote with your objectivity. But at the moment of voting, we can't do that, isn't it? Oh, I'm a Hindu, so I want a Hindu to become the MP. I'm this caste, so I want to become it. So it shrouds us. And when it shrouds us, we don't know it shrouds us because we find enough evidences for it to shroud us. Suddenly you read in a paper, oh, something's happening, blah, blah. It's the social dilemma, that if you've seen that documentary. So it's difficult for us to establish intellect. But if you establish intellect in each field, in that field you become objective, and when you're objective you're naturally sattvic, because you've removed the resistance of your own mind, you've removed that selfishness out. Greed, activity, undertaking of actions, restlessness, longing, these arise when rajas are predominant. So all of these modifications of rajasic desire, as you asked Gopal, also greed, restlessness, longing, all of these are born out of modifications of rajas. And tamas is inertness, laziness, darkness, procrastination, delusion, heedlessness. All that are modifications of tamasic desire. If the embodied one meets with death, so this is such a simple to read. So if when you die, when sattva is predominant, then that person attains to the spotless worlds of knowers of the highest. All that means is, if you die when if you die having put sattva as the highest part of your portfolio, then you are necessarily your mind necessarily requires the next projection to be in a sattvic world where you're born into knowledge, both in an environment that facilitates knowledge, where you're surrounded by things, events, people who facilitate your growth, and you have a mind that is less resistant to accepting that knowledge. So it speaks to you fast. Drop of the hat speaks to you, not just textbook knowledge but life in general. At the age of 15 some people ask questions, isn't it? At the age of 55 some people cannot ask questions. So if you die with sattva as predominant, you but a beneficiary of sattva. If you die with rajas as predominant, you're born among those into action. So you're born into action, meaning you start the rat race. You're bound to it. You see the world that you are born into, you see the projection that you're born into, you immediately get attached to that, and then now you want to chase that like a dog chasing the car. So that's what Krishna says. If you meet death in rajas, it's not your fault, Arjuna, but next projection you will be, the moment you're born, you will start getting enamored with everything. You want wealth, money, fame, relationship. So all the supply that you see, you want more of it. And why is there supply? Because you wanted more of it. So that's a vicious cycle. See, if you're born as if you die as a rajasic mind, what does that mean in terms of next projection? Your mind only fully expresses, projection is just a full expression of your own mind, as we have seen. So projection is not a god auditing saying, okay, this is the composition of your mind, this is the world I give you. No, project the physical world is just a fully expressed form of your mind. There is no physicality in the physical world, sir. A simple optical illusion fools us, isn't it? If you draw a cube on a paper, on, is it 2D or 3D? It's 2D, it's on paper, but it looks 3D, no? So so just because your eyes are telling you it's 3D, will it become 3D? We can only see the visible part of light, the vibgyor. Beyond the violet is ultraviolet, we can't see. This side beyond the red is infrared, we cannot see. Beyond that is gamma waves, and we cannot see. We can only see the visible part of this. Similarly, we can only hear the sounds that are in a particular frequency and wavelength. Beyond that, we get it becomes our eardrums go wonky, and below a particular wavelength, we cannot hear. Similarly, touch, we can only touch if there is a particular force in the touch. That's why you don't get disturbed just because a cotton bud falls on you unless you feel it. But you get disturbed if I come and slap you. So each of our senses are curated to a certain small bandwidth. And within those bandwidths, we experience a world and we assume it to be physically true. The way a snake sees the world is different from the way you see the world, sir. It's the same world. Some animals can only see infrared. Some animals cannot see visible light. So just because it's blue color for you, doesn't is that blue reality? Blue is just that visible Your eye recognizes it. That's about it. That's the way I'm interested in astrophysics. So one of the key things the last 50 years is how do we communicate with aliens. Now, the stupidest thing there is that we think we will communicate with early aliens like the way we can communicate with ourselves, because our human body is built to see a small visible spectrum of light. Just because you put a big hoarding and saying welcome to the earth doesn't mean they have the same equipment in their eyes to see that. What if they see infrared? Then they're only going to see that hoarding as a, kind of a thermal scan. So that means you want to communicate with early aliens using heat, not using words. So heat is what they may be able to sense. Who knows? Probably it's not that. Probably gamma rays. Probably they're able to talk in gamma rays, not in visible light. So the point is, we assume that aliens will be 6 feet tall because we are 6 feet tall. We assume that God will have a face and arms because we have face and arms. So our our take on life is so idiotic to a point of fault. That's why when we see physical world, we assume there is physical world. Of course there is physical world. I'm not trying to be a woo woo teacher here. So if I touch this mic, there is the mic. But the point is there a mic? What does that mean? See, if I'm seeing this mic, all I'm seeing is photons, because light falls on this mic and that photons get reflected back into my eyes, and they're reflecting back in many directions. What catches my eyes is the photons that meet my eyes, and the photons that meet my eyes, photons are particles and waves. So when those particles hit my eyes, my retina inverts the display, and from that point in time it stops being matter, it becomes electric impulses, and that electricity goes to my brain, and electricity goes to my brain, and it kind of decodes that signal, electric signal. And then what happens, nobody knows. And then there's something called the mind which interprets that electric signal. And where am I experiencing this mic, therefore, sir? I'm not experiencing this mic out here, I'm experiencing my mind in here. Correct? Where am I experiencing this mic? I'm experiencing this mic not out here. I'm experiencing this mic as a process inside my mind. How can I assume it's 3D, three dimensional here? The experience of it is three dimensional within my eyes, within my mind. Okay, you can say no, that's just seeing. What about touching? Touching is the same. So the moment I touch this mic, so the surface of the mic sends sends impulses in my hand, but my hand is not feeling this mic, because the moment my hand feels something, it sends signals to my brain, and my brain has electric impulses which activates, and it conjures an image in my mind saying that my hand is feeling something, and that's a mic. So everything happens inside my mind only. I'm not trying to get off topic here. All I'm saying is this physicality of the world is an assumption that we assume that it's a world independent, but it's just a fully expressed form of your own mind, is what Vedanta was. Just imagine the incredulous assumption of Vedanta thousands of years ago. Right or wrong is fine. That's your opinion. You can take whatever you want out of the class. But the point is, imagine the ingenious, lofty heights of thought. But the physical world is just a full expression of your own mind. It's not a world where you reside in a three-dimensional space. So in a hologram, you just see, it's a hologram is 2D, isn't it? If I turn the hologram like this, you see 3D. That's all it takes to fool your eyes. Scientists are now saying that the universe itself is a projection from the surface of the black hole. So black hole surface contains only bytes of data, zeros and ones. And we are all in the surface of the black hole. And that seems to be a 3D projection where it's not. Anyway, so that I can go on and on about physics. But the point is, we should be humble enough to accept that the physical world is just a fully expressed form of our own minds and desire. And the mind is not within your body. The mind is subtle body. The mind is vasanas, it's a fragrance, it's just imprint, desire. And when fully expressed, it requires the body with our equipment, and it requires the world, which we call environment. So to that extent is where the world and body is true. It just expresses your mind fully. It doesn't have independent pith and substance by itself. It is just a projection upon your mind to express itself fully, the desires. Therefore, when the rajasic person dies, what is in his mind is rajas, and therefore what is required for him is a rajasic expression of it. So where does the supply of rajas that he sees in the world come from? That also came from him only. So when a rajasic person is born and he sees a world full of desires, where does that supply come from? It also came from him. Where does that need for that supply came from? That also came from him. So both the craving and the supply for that craving, both were conjured up by him. Why? Because he had left himself as a rajasic person when he died. Full stop. So when a sattvic person is born, he sees a world that he can go help. He sees a nice world, and he sees in himself the quality, the craving to do that. Both of it are born from where, sir? Both of it are born from his own mind, because he left himself a sattvic when he died. And similarly, tamas is the same logic there. So 16, the fruit of good action, they say, is sattvic and pure. The Verily the fruit of rajas is pain, and the fruit of tamas is ignorance. So more sattvic people, the more pure you are, the more pure you feel, the more blissful you feel. Rajas is always pain. That's why when Buddha says man is born to suffer, he's talking about the average man, which is rajas. Rajas is always pain. Rajas is the illusion of happiness, if you put it another way. We're all living in rajas. Rajas is illusion of happiness, because you're looking for something permanent, permanent happiness from objects that are necessarily impermanent in its capacity to give you happiness. And therefore, you need a lot more contact with those objects to be happy. But we also know the more you contact objects, there is only diminishing returns of happiness. So, for example, when you used to go one vacation in 2 years in a nice place, hill station in India, there used to be a lot of happiness that you and your family got. Now, because rest of our life is average, our work is bad, our society is average, you're generally more pained, so you want to do more of those 3-day vacations to keep you happy. And now you have more money because you're earning better now, so you can even do foreign holidays. So you've increased it to 3 vacations a year. Now the third vacation does not necessarily give you, the 3 vacations a year does not make your year necessarily 3 times happier or 6 times happier than that one vacation every 2 years. In fact, now a vacation has become a chore. Now you have to apply leave, which is even worse. Now, now there are more problems. Now different people want to go different places. Then there are more fights that happen during vacations. Now in the vacation, you're there chilling, but you're also thinking of work. So nothing right or wrong in vacations. I'm just saying, rajas is always painful because you're looking for the wrong answer in the wrong activity. So the fruit of tamas is ignorance, right? So let's move on. So knowledge arises from sattva, greed arises from rajas, delusion arises from tamas. Those who are abiding in sattva go upwards. Oops. Those who are, there we go. Those who are abiding in sattva go upwards. Rajasic stay in the middle, projection after projection after projection. So you, to your question, Gopal, I guess. Yes, Gopal. Are sattva gunas, do sattva gunas lead us closer to someone whom God loves? Yes. Those who are abiding in sattva go upwards. Rajasic enjoy, suffer, are happy, are painful, but they continue stagnating in the middle, projection after projection after projection. because when they die they leave with a similar composition of how they started, and tamas go downward into ignorance. And tamas is very dangerous, my friend, because what picture do we use to represent tamas? The picture of a womb in a embryo in a mother's womb, which has gone into total envelope. You can't see the embryo from outside. So it's difficult to get back to even rajas, and leave alone self-realization. That's the urgency which we need to ward off tamas and rajas. So when we say sattva goes upwards, Gopal, to your question, does it also mean someone whom God loves? Hmm. So two things. So one is to go to sattva. Number two is to be detached of sattva. Then you are in the list of people God loves. See, sattva can also come from a place of selfishness, meaning not the rajasic kind of selfishness. It can come from the place of doership. See, you really take suffering at the other person's suffering, no? As a tamasic person, you never did that. You climbed on other people to get your promotion. But when his values start speaking to you, when virtues start speaking to you, when some self-help speaks to you, when these classes start speaking to you, hopefully at some point in time you're sensitive enough to tune into another person's shortcomings, another person's gunas, and at that point in time you truly want to help. And as you help, sometimes you see the other person not putting their 2 cents in it, and you truly feel bad, just like a mother teaches the kid studies, but then the kid is not applying it. The mother truly feels bad, isn't it? This is not a selfish desire. This is unselfish, but there's also attachment. So sattva makes your own life better. Sattva, divorced of attachment, takes you closer to God. Sattva makes life heaven. The moment you are more service centered, your life becomes better. You've future proofed yourself. Leave others. We've seen that last week. The moment you offer love, you are securing your future. Forget about the person who's benefiting from your love. The moment you're kind to sarvabhuta, the animals, the moment you're kind to animals, you're securing your future. Forget about animal rights activists. All that's fine. You're saving animals. You're also securing your future, sir, by being kind to everything. The moment you're seeing the rich person and poor person as the same, you're securing your future, because you're not pained by differences in the world. However, if you want to go to the list that God loves, like Abu Ben Adam, it's not just sattva, it's also being detached to sattva. Because attached to sattva shows doership to sattva, right? I am helping the world. Oh, God will say, okay, help the world, it's fine. You say, no, no, no. I'm nobody to help this world. I'm helping the world because I'm still in this body. So let me as well do good things. But I'm not the one helping the world. It's my gunas that's helping the world. It's the trap of the gunas that's helping the world. Even good things, you're able to see it's a trap of your gunas that's helping the world. So I'm detached to that as well. So then you're in the list that uh, God loves. So there is no agency involved anymore. There's no I involved anymore. There is non-preferential take on life, and there is if I can help, I help. If I can't help, I'm not going to think of, oh, I couldn't help anybody today. That's also ego. If I can help that, if I can help my son be better, I'll do what it takes. But I'm not going to take that to a point of fault where I make it a matter of ego between me and myself. My son cannot fail. So it's the calling the bluff of the trap is takes you closer to God, not just being sad. So Deepak asks in the chat, how can we help someone from overcoming tamas? Sir, we cannot help someone overcoming tamas. We can only help ourselves overcoming tamas. Um, you can help someone manage rajas You cannot help someone overcoming tamas. What you can do is create environment around them where that one shred of rajas that is still left in them, that gets activated more often than tamas. See, nobody is purely tamas, Deepak. Are you there, Deepak?
Yes, yes, I am here. Thank you.
Deepak, nobody is purely tamas. If you push a tamasic person in areas that they are tamasic, you're up for a tough challenge. And most of the time you lose that battle. But nobody is pure tamas. You should find shreds where rajas still exists. Even a tamasic person is passionate about a few things that you may not be passionate about, that you may not want them to be passionate about. That's different. But they're passionate about a few things. So the best way to help a tamasic person is not to lock horns with their tamas, but find out areas where they show signs of rajas, passion, achievement, excellence, whatever it is, and create an environment where they're able to reinforce that part of their personality. So over time, slowly the rajas component increases. They become more active, they become more disciplined, they become more vivacious, they become more about that part, and then that pervades into other parts of the personality. And the moment you're in rajas, you can help with knowledge, because rajasic people are in pain, but it doesn't mean they don't understand the truth. So rajas is a place where we know everything, but we're still trapped in action. Knowledge is not a problem for rajas. We all know, right? We all know kindness is important. The problem is we are trapped in our own gunas. So kindness is not a natural disposition for us. So yeah. So tamas, work with the meet them where they are. So Deepak also asks how much we should have attachment to kids if they don't listen. Should we leave them alone and let their karma reward them? So I'm not a father, so I can't be specific to kids. I can only say how much should we have attachment to people in general, and if we don't listen, should we leave them alone? So, so my take on this is that you have an obligation as a father, which you have to dispense with your highest level of excellence, of course, which you do. They The assumption that they are your children, hence you are anything but custodians of them, is a place of high ego. The reason being, they are born out of the buttons they have punched in the past. They are born out of gunas that had nothing to do with you or your genes. Within the world, we make sense of it like genes and DNA. All that's true, but they are trapped in their own gunas. So, so beyond a point, what you do is you're doing it because of your need and your craving and your desire. You're not necessarily doing it for them, because if you're really doing it for them, you would do it in a more objective way. So if they don't listen to you, it's probably the way you're doing it is a fault, for example. Probably that's not the fault. Probably you've already thought about that. Probably it's because you want them to be someone which is a reflection of your desires, probably not their desires. Number two. Number three, it could be because uh, it's 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 the consequences they have to pay of having an average life. Um, though, however, your heart as a father does not want them to uh, thread a few pathways. If that's what they have to, that's what they have to. Now, that doesn't give you the excuse to say so let them do what they want. You still have to do your bit as a dad. However, stay equanimous and detached to that. So don't take suffering out of that is the point here. If you're playing a game, you're doing what you can, but you're not taking suffering out of the game, isn't it? So because taking suffering is shows high level of doership and entitlement. Saying as a dad, I'm their providence. I'm giving them everything, but in return, all I expect is some discipline and listening, but they're not doing that. That is entitlement. They were not asked to be born in this world, and having created them, They're not responsible for their gunas. They're trapped within their gunas, and and therefore they can only be in accordance to their karma. So it's a tricky thing. You can't leave them. At the same time, you act on them without your own sense of doership entitlement. So that's a thin, wafer thin thing there. So moving on, this is I'm going to skip. So this is what is important here. So Arjuna asks, what are the marks of people who have crossed over the three gunas? How do they conduct themselves, and how does one go beyond the three gunas? This is why Krishna says 4 or 5 points, which we have discussed now actually because of your great questions. And so we will be quick. So Krishna says first people, and when he says Arjuna, he is speaking to us. So listen up. He who has no aversion to sattva or rajas or tamasic desires, and sorry, when they are present, and neither longs for them when they are absent. So this by J. Krishnamurti's thought comes back again. I don't mind what happens. Very, it's a 4 inch line in that contains all of chapter 14. He says, I don't mind what happens means what? I don't want to judge the fruits of my action. So we are all living in fear because we mind what happens, isn't it? You mind what happens to your relationships, you mind what happens to your career, you mind what happens to your family, you mind what happens to your neighbor, you mind what happens to India, you mind what happens to your religion, you mind what happens to your state. Too many things you mind, therefore it's a total painful life. You get angry if Modi does something, you get angry if Kejriwal does something, we get angry if your chief minister does something, says something, you get angry if Greta Thunberg tweets something, we get angry if Kangana Ranaut tweets something. So too many things. I don't mind what happens means it's I'm not, I'll still act the way I should, but I'm not taking suffering out of that. So he who has no aversion when something is present, meaning you are not saying no to things, neither are you craving for them when they are absent. It's a very thin it's a razor's edge. So during the vacation, don't be a saint and say I need to detach, I need to detach, I cannot enjoy this, the guilt, of I cannot enjoy. Of course you got to enjoy it. Having come from vacation, got into work, don't live in that memory and crave for it and put yourself into misery again. What happens during the last day of vacation, sir? Mostly the suffering has started, because now you think of Monday morning and you think of this beautiful beach, and you're killing your own vacation because you are you are already craving for it with the idea of its absence. Correct. So Krishna says, neither the absence of something nor the presence of something determines your happiness. Then you're moving beyond the three gunas, and this applies to each guna. But coming back to your points, what about sattva? Isn't that better than tamas? Yes, it is. Why? Because a tamasic person becomes totally averse to the presence of something he doesn't like, and totally attached to the presence of something he likes. He becomes totally a monster in the absence of something he craves for, and he becomes totally a monster in the presence of something he's averse to. We all feel that as well. Sometimes a part of our personality is tamas. A rajasic person is averse to things that don't lead to his passion, and are attached to things that he craves for again and again. A sattvic person is loser. A sattvic person does not have as much aversion and attachment. However, the aversion and attachment also is still present to a degree, but it is more outward focused than selfish focused. A sattvic person is averse when impure things are present. Like suddenly you like to keep your house tidy and well for others to enjoy as well. But the a break of that by other people puts you in anger. You don't like dirty houses. It's not even that you go complain to them. You generally don't like dirty houses. You're averse to that because you're used to purity. You don't like hearing bad things. You're attached to not hearing bad things. How does it mind what you hear? Why are you so finicky? So you don't mind, you don't like somebody abusing or using bad words. That's also an aversion. And also you long for goodness, you long for virtue, you long for going back to your NGO so that you can help people. High sattva people, when they are put in rajas, after a point they get averse to it. For example, if you take a person who's doing an amazing job of curing or taking care of old people in an old age home, and he's going for a vacation to Greece, in an island close to Greece, for 1 week. He's enjoying it, but his purpose is so much large that for the fourth day, fifth day, he starts thinking of his purpose. uh, he is longing to go back and help the world. He feels uncomfortable in his skin to enjoy a vacation. He feels uncomfortable in his skin to spend 4 lakhs, while that 4 lakhs means the life of 10 elderly people for 1 full year in his old age home. See? And when I said that your sattva yourself might have been kindled, say, what the hell? But that doesn't mean you and I will stop going for vacations. But when I say that your sattva is kindled, isn't it? So this guy who owns this old age home, 4 lakhs for him to go to Greek island to just enjoy when he doesn't even like that. I mean, when he doesn't even prefer that. And then that 4 lakhs is 10 old people, 75 years old, for 1 year, their entire food and shelter in his old age home. Now it's gone, it's burnt. Now he is also attached, he also longs for that. He is also averse to this. That's also, he's averse to the right things, attached to the right things, attached to more noble things, averse to the less noble things. But in his personal journey in self realization, it is still an obstruction because he's still putting his 2 cents to the world. He's still holding on to the world as reality, though within the world what he is doing is heavenly, what he is doing is sattvic, what he is doing is virtuous. It doesn't help him climb over the fence if he is still averse and attached. To a truly wise person, a sage is sattvic but detached from sattva. So I do what life has me do. If I can be of help, I'll drop everything and be of help. But if I can't do anything at this moment, I'm not going to lament that I can't do anything at this moment. I'm not going to lament that there are children who are dying in Africa. But if I can be of help, I'll be the first person to be of help. And even when I'm of help, I'm not going to take that doership to me. I'm of help because your resources, sir, that you are being of help, you assume it's your resources. You got it from somewhere, you're giving it somewhere, isn't it? You got it from your dad, inheritance, or you got it from your business. What is your business? You're over marketing an average product to gullible customers and making money of it. Everything we market is over market. No, mineral water is over marketed and overpriced. Your watches are overpriced and over marketed. You say Coca-Cola spreads happiness. Coca-Cola spreads only diabetes. You probably are your senior manager at Coca-Cola. So whatever you trade is itself a itself is leverages capitalism and its loopholes. So that money, when you give it for charity, where is the doership that, oh, I'm helping people? It's your opportunity to redeem yourself, sir. Opportunity to redeem it. You're working in a software industry, no? What software industry? Finally, you're creating software for what? For some banks you're working for, who's offering loans to customers that they don't need, for to buy things they don't want with money they don't have. For that, they need attractive front end software products which you are coding and giving them. You are making your money, of course. Finally, it comes down to your uncle there who's buying that product, and finally, so if you see systems thinking, if you take a systems view of things, so this money that you earn and you give for little sattvic qualities is not a badge of honor. It is you're exploiting gullible people in the name of being blindfolded to your repercussions of things. And with that money, it's a there. Where is that ego? Is the point. I'm not trying to make you feel worse or something. All of us are in the wheel of capitalism. We have to. I'm in consulting. It's probably as bad or worse. You create a problem and solve for that problem. Sometimes you solve for real problems, but you exaggerate your importance of solving real problems. But with that money, if I do something good, why do I need credit for that? I'm offsetting the crimes of my own past. I'm offsetting the crimes that I'm creating on people. That client who pays me $1 million to my company, that $1 million they could have redistributed as salary increase for their employees. No, they're paying me $1 million for me to create a strategy for their employee rewards or whatever. That is the capitalism. That's how we function. The but it's a I know it's farce, because what I'm doing is 2 hours of work, and they could have instead given that $1 million to people in the organization, the frontline workers, the factory shop floor keepers who earn pittance, and people at the top earn 600 times. In 1965, do you know the ratio of salary between the frontline executive to the CEO? So one of the ratios we use to compare the total rewards and salary when we craft those for senior executives in consulting is the ratio of salary between the front line, that is, who's your lowest technician or worker, to the CEO. In the 60s and 70s, were 32 times. So if you're earning 10 lakhs, the CEO is earning 32 times. What is 32 times? It is 3.5 crores or 3.2 crores. Correct? Wow, it's a lot of big increase. Do you know the ratio today? An IT company in India, the fresher still earns 4 lakhs, right? It does, 12 years ago, he was earning 3.5 lakhs. Is the CEO earning the same amount today as he was earning 12 years ago? The ratio now is 350, not 32, which means if the low level worker is earning 10 lakhs, the CEO is earning 350, which is 32 crores total shares and cash and everything put together for a big company, huh? Not for every company with a certain. So I'm saying for that CEO, where is their ego in charity here? Does he really produce 350 times the work that a junior guy produces? Does he really add so much value to the organization? It is all a myth, a bubble we have developed, saying that this corporate governance structures are so important. The CEO's role is as important as it is, because there's ambiguity. Of course, the CEO's job is critical, because if there's bad CEO, everybody else loses jobs. But does that mean the driver of the CEO should also be paid 32 crores, sir? Because if the driver does not drive well, the CEO dies, no? So that logic applies then. If the CEO is so important, because if he's not there, the company falls, then the driver of the CEO should be paid 50 crores. because he's more important than the CEO, because the CEO's life depends on his driving skills. No, but the driver is still paid 3 lakhs. No, so when you look at how things work around us, when we look at how we make our money, how we enjoy our vacation, where does that come from? Where does it go to? We being Sattvic is but a natural courtesy with humility and forgiveness we owe the world. Now, Sattva should come from this understanding. Sattva cannot be a force fit, is my point here. When J. Krishnamurti said, genuinely said, I don't mind what happens, he's not trying to force fit a quality where he hasn't reached yet. He's telling you how he feels in reality. He's not trying to tell you Sattva should be like this. He's saying people who are like this are Sattva. There are two different things here. Everybody knows Sattva should, but what's your personal experience? So personal experience should come from a bulb moment. There's a penny drop moment. It cannot come from saying, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be selfless when I'm giving. No, you will not. You will revert to wanting recognition, wanting. Can you be nobody and do charity? A lot of people who do that. It's difficult for us. Can you be a nobody and be happy? That is, we should not be on social media. But in your mind, the first point is, do you have aversion to something that happens, an attachment for something that is not currently happening? If you, as long as you have that, you cannot go beyond the gunas. Second point is, he who is seated like one unconcerned, unmoved by the gunas, who knows that it is the gunas that act, that kind of a person is always unto himself. Self-centered here is a different meaning. He's with the self and never wavers. We've talked about that. It's the gunas that act and not me. That realization also takes you beyond the gunas. Third point here is, alike in pleasure and pain, who dwells in the self, to whom a clod of earth, a precious stone, oops, to whom a clod of earth, a precious stone, are alike, and even gold are alike, to whom the dear and the not dear are the same, firm, the, the same in censure and self-praise. The third condition, one is what we saw in 22. The second is the fact that gunas act, not you. The third is a non-preferential take on life. We immediately have preferences, isn't it? The clod of earth, precious stone, and gold. When I just lay these three things in front of us, we immediately have our preferences. We prefer the gold. And therein lies pain and displeasure. You can like gold, but why are you attached to gold? This is just a metaphor, not gold itself. So non-preferential take on life means the moment preferences come in, they immediately escalate to attachments and aversions. But a person who genuinely is alike in pleasure and pain, he does not see a difference between earth or stone. Or so you can see that sattvic qualities in yourself sometimes, and I'm sure you've observed that as intelligent people. Let me move here. I've just summarized the 5 points here for your benefit. But going back to point 3 here, which is non-preferential take on life. Non-preferential take on life, sometimes you've observed where when a beggar in the road is often ostracized and insulted by people, sometimes your heart speaks out, isn't it? For you, you don't like seeing that difference. So you go out there and offer a few kind words to him. At that point in time, you don't have preference between beggar or a millionaire. To that extent, you have evolved in that part. But you have heavy preferences elsewhere. You have heavy preferences of where you want to go on a Saturday. You want heavy preferences on how you want the house to be kept. So, but in certain ways, our sattvic ability speaks out. So, person who's beyond sattva also has a non-preferential take on anything in life. There's no preferences in a very high level. There was a sage. There's a story of a wise person who had renounced the world. This is not a good story for us, but it's a story for this particular example. So this wise person was sitting under a tree, and he was a wise guy. So the entire village used to come to him for advice and counsel. So he used to, if someone asks a question, never say no to it, answer it. If someone does not ask you, don't go give them unsolicited advice. That's point one. We're going to cover all points now in this story. I didn't realize it, but we may. So this wise sage was sitting there. He had all the wisdom, doesn't mean he has to offer wisdom unless people volunteer to come seek it. The extent you've understood Vedanta is the extent you don't talk about it in your everyday life to people who haven't solicited your input. Full stop. Now, after this class, if I go talk Vedanta to my family, that shows my ignorance, not knowledge. So after this class, I have to go watch a movie with family, have fun, go out, do shopping, do my work, log into Zoom calls, do speaking, do things I like, play Scrabble, whatever we do here in Chennai here. If I go talk Vedanta outside, so I'm living in a sad life. I'm living a very uh, diseased life. If I'm not happy. If I'm, but that doesn't mean when I'm playing Scrabble or going shopping. That doesn't mean you should go completely go attach yourself to that. Also, you're living through a spirit of equanimity, but you're living with the world that you are in. Holding yourself back only shows your fear of getting attached to things if you allow yourself to do that. Holding yourself back in love only shows the fear of your own attachment if you let yourself lose in it. Holding yourself back to your own children only shows the fear of your attachment if you start getting too involved in their matters of study and relationships. That's because of your inability. If you go there, you will get too attached. So better is to restrain. That is not a complete experience of life. That is a partial experience of life. Complete experience of life is in your mind. You've called the bluff of all of this. So you're never averse by the presence of something, neither you crave the absence of it. So you're able to indulge yourself, propel yourself fully into life, enjoy it as much as you want, at the same time having your North Star in place. So the sage, coming back to the story before we finish the class, so the sage was sitting there in that village. When people come to him for advice, he would offer advice out of his best capacity. When people don't follow his advice, it is not his cross to bear. When people follow his advice, it is not his adulation to take. When people don't come to him for advice, he doesn't offer advice. So he was that kind of a sage. So people obviously, those kind of people become magnets. Everybody loves those kind of people. That elderly person in your house who's there when you need them, but does not infringe upon your take on life is the most popular elderly person in the house, isn't it? So this person was there and the village loved him. One day what happened was, uh, there was this young girl who was dating this young guy in the village, and one thing led to another, and she got herself pregnant with that guy, that young guy. A few months later the family found about it, and she obviously could not reveal that it was that guy. If she revealed it was that guy, he would get beaten up, they would never be able to be together. And she was too afraid to say that as well. And a guy asked her not to say that as well. So what she did was she did something very, very wrong. She told the elders that it was that sage who was that guy, that ascetic who was sitting under the tree. He's the one who lured her into some advice and raped her. The villagers obviously believed that young girl, as rightly so, in most cases at least, and went and took his case. They said, "Get out of this village. We trusted you for 20 years. We've given you food, shelter. We've respected you, but you've totally played around with our trust. So get out." So this elderly man looked at this villagers and says, "Is that so?" And he walked out and went to a forest or the next village, and sat down and doing his own chores like he did every day. Now, 3 months later, this young guy who actually impregnated this girl was caught red handed on something else, and he had to accept that he is the one who impregnated this girl. These villagers suddenly got into massive guilt. We had sent this most wise soul who didn't do any wrong out of our village. So they went out there and they saw him sitting in the forest, and they said, "Oh, wise man, pardon our ignorance. We want you to come back to our village and sit in that same tree and continue helping us and advising us. We need you." What did this wise man say? Anybody?
Is that so?
Hmm. Who was that?
Yeah.
Ah, Jay. Correct. And what did he do?
He agreed and he went back to the village.
Exactly, exactly. Correct. There's no ego there saying that no, no, no. Once you break my trust, is that so? Okay, let me go back. He went back and sat there. Somebody came to him for advice. He gave it. The same content. Where is that ego saying they threw me out so I can't go there? Where is that ego saying that how can they throw me out? I will not go where life takes you. This is not fully applicable for us, but the spirit of this is non-preferential take on things. What does that mean? It means that right and wrong is all is a preferential take on things. Okay, if they threw you out, why are you sitting there fighting your case? Of course you got to tell the truth, but beyond that, if they're not ready to listen to the truth, move on. No, where is their ego saying I have to stamp my truth, whatever? Move on. If they come back and apologize, where is their ego saying that no, I cannot go back? There's ego. That is also ego. Virtue is also ego. Okay, I'll go back. So what? Big deal. If I don't want to go back, I won't. If I go back, so that's like some people. If you the fake sattvic qualities is when you give some people an compliment, they say no, 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 thank you, no, 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 it's not me. I'm humble. That shows lack of humility. Is that so? Is the right portrayal of humility? Aditya, you're the greatest person. Is that so? Thank you. You're the worst guy in the world. Is that so? Take your feedback. I'll reflect upon it. Where is that? Where is the refusal of compliments? That is not humility. If someone really truly wants to offer you a gift because of you've given them some values, why say no to that gift? Neither say crave for that gift. So it's a subtle. So if you've gone beyond sattva, you have nothing to hinge on to as values. You go as per your sattvic values, but unattached to it. That's the point. And then equanimous to all situations. And then all these four, and the fifth is, if you've gone beyond sattva, rajas, tamas, it is but obvious that you're devoted to me, Krishna says. Because the only way you can go beyond rajas, sattva, tamas is if you realize the absolute behind all of this. And that is our introduction as well to chapter 15, where we close today. Because we don't go into chapter 15, it's called Purushottama Yoga. I'll stop sharing. Chapter 15 says that there is Kshara, there is Kshara Purusha, which is the self, the self in the perishable. All of us are the self, isn't it? There's nothing can be different from the self because that's non-duality, Advaita. It's all the self. but it seems to be perishable, life and all of this. There's Akshara Purusha, which is the imperishable cause of this perishable Purusha, which is your mind, or which is the subtle body that carries on even when the gross body dies. But the truth self is beyond the Kshara and Akshara. It is the Uttama Purusha. It is the Purushottama. Purusha Uttama. Uttama Purusha, the highest Purusha. Purusha itself is spirit. But the Purusha that manifests as the perishable, Purusha that manifests as the imperishable behind that perishable, and the Purusha that is apart from all of this, it's a Uttama Purusha, the self in you. With that, let's pause today and have a great week ahead. And let's keep connected on the group chat and personal chat. And all the best. Have a good week and a good day.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you,
Bless you.
Aditya.
Thank you, Aditya. Have a great birthday, Aditya.